But first, let's start with that all-important group, the young. How do we ensure that we capture the hearts and minds of our children such that they appreciate the importance of water? Well, to understand this better, I spoke to a children's author, Catherine Barr. Catherine is the author of Water, Protect Freshwater and Save Life on Earth. Catherine studied ecology at university and trained as a journalist. She worked at Greenpeace International for 7 years as a wildlife and forestry campaigner and has a long-running interest in environmental issues. I spoke to her recently to find out more about why she wanted to write a children's book on water.
Well, I chose to write a book on water because I write stories about big pictures for children, and I was fascinated by the story of water, so critical to life on Earth, and I write about nature and engage them in environmental issues. So I was really keen to discover the global picture of what's happening with fresh water and use my books to go into schools to talk about that issue. And in my journey and my research, I discovered all kinds of extraordinary things, which I always do, and particularly the rarity of fresh water, 3% of all the water on Earth. And that's a fact that astounded me, and also I've talked to children a lot about. And these amazing drawings by Christiana Engel that engage children in the story. I also was particularly interested in the role of water and girls' education, and I've become fascinated by that. And I work with an organisation called Freshwater, who do amazing work in India, particularly, who have been involved with the book. But also the book includes information about the water cycle, the fact that dinosaurs, we might be drinking the same water as dinosaurs. You know, kids find that kind of thing fascinating. So, and I also visited a jeans factory to find out about water and washing and clothes, and also the role of climate change in the water picture globally, which was incredibly interesting and important to talk about.
But the bit I love there is it goes right back to your journalistic background. You're not just telling a story, you're researching through and building up a fact base and just following that narrative that you just described of that sort of catching fact. So little of the fresh water is actually usable by us. And that's what will jolt a child up to thinking about it.
Yes.
Covering the various challenges we have, be that from young girls and water and menstrual health, through to industrial uses with denim jeans factories. It's so good that you tell these stories in an engaging way that captures the young hearts, which does lead me to saying, why do you write children's books rather than adult books?
Well, I'm incredibly interested in engaging young children's energy and interest in nature. And it's critical for our future to engage young primary school children who can absolutely understand the big picture. And they're so interested, and there's so many ways to involve them. And particularly, I think, water, wetlands. Children don't think of wetlands. They don't, if you ask them for a range of habitats, they would never say a wetland. And I'm fascinated by wetlands. I've written books about the Okavango Delta, about the Amazon, and these habitats are so important, and the wildlife that's part of that. So I go into a lot of schools, and I produce each book that I do. Almost all of them have activity sheets that go with them. Take the plunge and write a poem about water, and be a pollution detective. So it gets them talking about these kinds of issues. And I've gone into a lot of schools, and they've started off making a pond in the school garden, with a washing up bowl. You can do it with anything. And it takes a long time, but, that's part of the story. And engaging them, and they get incredibly excited. They ask questions. I get amazing questions, and it starts conversations and work projects in the classroom about water. And that's what I'm interested in doing.
Brilliant. Well, as a recent grandfather, I've got my own children. I'm now a grandfather. I am indebted to people like you who create these inspiring, engaging stories that will help the next generations embrace these issues. Now, I know that you're a person who does like to take on other challenges, and you're in the middle of, I think you're in the middle of a national challenge. Can you just finish by giving me a little headline on that? Because I think it would be good for the audience it tells us a little bit more about Catherine Barr.
Well, I'm at the beginning, certainly not the middle. I'm at the beginning. I'm walking alongside the water, the ocean. I'm walking from Land's End to John O'Groats over time. It might take my whole lifetime. And the whole point is to get my books into more schools and libraries in the UK. So I've just started. I've got lottery funding for the first section from Cornwall to Hay and Wye, where I live. And I've done 2 weeks. I've done 10 school events in schools and libraries, talking about my books, sharing these stories, and walking. And I love it. And it's fantastic just being outside instead of at my desk. And
I like to think of you as a rock star with a T-shirt that's got, tour dates that people can go to. You need to get a T-shirt,
yes.
the tour dates that everyone has.
I've got a logo, but not a T-shirt. Yes.
Catherine, thank you again for what you do. It's such important work, and we will share the link to your book and to all the people on the membership. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what I love there is how Catherine is banging those key messages that we as a sector need everyone to know, i.e. only 3% of the world's water is readily available to humankind, or the importance of wetlands. There's also an important point here around how vital it is that no matter who the audience, children or adults, books about water are well researched.